Imagine a warning that sends shivers around the world. It's happening in Israel, a small country that keeps the world on edge due to what is emerging from there. The most terrifying aspect is the fulfillment of prophecies. Today, let's dive into the chilling prophecies of Israel that are shaking the globe. After World War II, the Jewish people were dispersed, losing their connection with Israel, a place of great importance to them. However, something incredible happened. God fulfilled his promise. On May 14, 1948, David Ben Gurion, leader of the Jewish Agency, officially declared the foundation of Israel. This special moment was predicted in the books of Ezekiel, Jeremiah, and Isaiah in the Old Testament, which prophesied the restoration of Israel. Ezekiel 36:4 says, "I will take you out of the nations, gather you from all countries, and bring you back into your land." This meant that God promised to gather the Jewish people from all the places where they were scattered and bring them back to their land. Jeremiah, in chapter 30, also talks about God comforting his people and promising to bring them back to the land given to their ancestors. These prophecies focused on gathering the Jewish people who were scattered and bringing them back to the land that God promised to give them, which is today's Israel. When we look at Israel today, we can see that the old predictions are coming true. The land promised to the Jewish people is now their home, showing that God's promises endure. The return of the Jewish people to their homeland makes these old predictions a reality. But there's more to the story. Today, Israel faces adverse weather conditions with heat and drought, and the land is naturally not very fertile. But something surprising is happening. The people of Israel are cultivating a variety of crops in lands that seemed unproductive. Even the trees in Israel produce more than in other places, like Russia. They believe in the biblical promise of Zechariah 8:12, which says, "The seed will grow well, the vine will yield its fruit, the ground will produce its crops, and the heavens will drop their dew." This means they trust that God will make their crops grow, even in difficult conditions. We can see God's promises becoming a reality before us. Zechariah, in chapter 12, makes a prediction related to the current political scenario in the Middle East. He predicts that Jerusalem will be an immovable force, even in the face of difficulties. The prophecies unfolding in Israel show the connection between Jerusalem, Israel, and religious faith, highlighting the importance of this special land to those who believe in God. The prophecies about Jerusalem and Israel have already been partially fulfilled, while others are still under discussion. The first is about the transformation of the land from unproductive to prosperous. Zechariah 8:12 talks about Israel's success, saying, "The seed will grow well, the vine will yield its fruit, and the ground will produce its crops." Israel, which previously had arid lands with little water, is now a leader in advanced cultivation technologies, such as drip irrigation, which allows crops to grow abundantly with less water. Scientists have also developed crops that can survive with little rain and worked on projects to improve the soil, allowing areas that previously could not grow anything to now produce crops. All this progress in agriculture and the greening of the land is like the old predictions coming true. The Third Temple and its importance. The Third Temple in Jerusalem is a place of great importance for many people, being even more special than the old temples that no longer exist. Although it has not yet been built, many are excited about it. For Orthodox Jews, it is not just a building, but a symbol of holiness and a place of prayer. Since 1987, a group called the Temple Movement has been preparing to build the Third Temple. Although many people in the world today do not pay much attention to religious matters, Orthodox Jews take this very seriously. They have reestablished a religious committee, the Sanhedrin, responsible for ensuring that everything is done correctly in the reconstruction of the temple. For Orthodox Jews, rebuilding the temple is crucial for improving the world. They believe that things will only get better once the temple is rebuilt. Interestingly, Israel's return to the Promised Land and the construction of the Third Temple align with what was said in the Bible by prophets like Ezekiel and Isaiah. These prophets spoke about God promising to bring back his people. Ezekiel says, "Then the nations will know that I, the Lord, make Israel holy, when my sanctuary is among them forever." This means that when God's special place, the sanctuary, is with the Jewish people, everyone will know that Israel is special. God always planned to bring the Jewish people back to the land in a special way, and after many years of being scattered, they finally returned, just as the prophecy said. Another quote from Isaiah in the Bible says, "I will say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not hold them back. Bring my sons from afar and my daughters from the ends of the earth." This means that God wanted his sons and daughters from all over the world to come back to the special land he promised them, like a great gathering. But you might wonder why they want to build the third temple if there is a belief that Yeshua serves in the true tabernacle in heaven. It's not just a building. It's not just a building. It's a home for God's special presence. The Bible says, "Let them construct a sanctuary for me, that I may dwell among them." The prophet Ezekiel saw God's special presence leave the old temple, but he also saw that it would come back and stay in a new eternal home in Jerusalem. Rambam, an ancient Jewish philosopher, said that the third temple is not just a repeat of history, but a symbol that shows God is always with his people. Therefore, building the third temple is not just about the past. It's about showing that God is always present with his people. With this reconstruction, something mysterious was also found. A big discovery that has caught the attention of many is related to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. This site is special for the Jewish and Muslim communities, being important for a long time. Recently, something interesting was discovered under the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount. This mosque is important to Muslims and is believed to have been built by an important figure named Abraham a long time ago. But surprisingly, under the mosque, they found a special place where Jewish people used to perform rituals to purify themselves spiritually. This finding is significant because it shows that this site is important for different religions. Robert Hamilton, an archaeologist, discovered this feature after an earthquake damaged the mosque. He found a Jewish ritual bath called a mikvah under the mosque's floor. This mikvah was important to Jewish people a long time ago during the Second Temple period, being a place where they purified themselves spiritually before going up to the special area of the Temple Mount. What's interesting about this discovery is that it changes what people previously thought. Some believed there was never an ancient Jewish temple at this location. But thanks to this discovery, history is changing. Archaeologists, by examining ancient records and finding evidence, demonstrate that there was an ancient temple on the Temple Mount. It's not just about rescuing the past. It shows the importance of religion and culture to this special place. It's like finding a missing puzzle piece that changes how we see this important site, shedding new light on its history and religious significance. And then there was the arrival of red heifers. Following this, something really interesting happened in Israel. The arrival of 5 special red heifers from a ranch in Texas. Many people who believe in the prophecy of building the third temple in Jerusalem are excited about this, as if it were part of the prophecy coming true. These heifers, less than a year old, if they remain completely red without defects, can be used to make ashes. These ashes are extremely important in Jewish law for purifying people who have been near a dead body, especially for the priests who will work in the future temple. These special heifers had to follow the rules of the Israeli Veterinary Authority, so they underwent a 7-day quarantine in Haifa upon arrival. After that, they will be taken to 2 locations in Israel, one open to the public for viewing. They will be carefully cared for, symbolizing a significant aspect of tradition and religious belief. This narrative of Israel and its prophecies is fascinating, as it combines historical, spiritual, and contemporary elements. What we see today in Israel is a complex tapestry of faith, history, and modernity intertwining, fulfilling ancient prophecies and bringing new dimensions to the understanding of the sacred and the secular. It's a story that continues to captivate and inspire many, regardless of their personal beliefs. Biblical history. In Jewish tradition, the red heifer is mentioned in the Book of Numbers, chapter 19, and is considered fundamental to purification rituals. According to Mosaic law, the red heifer was used to create purification water, essential for cleansing rituals, especially after contact with death. Previous sacrifices. Since the time of Moses, it is believed that only 9 red heifers were sacrificed, each playing a crucial role at different times in Jewish history. These sacrifices are seen as significant moments, fulfilling the prescribed laws and traditions. The 10th red heifer. The arrival of the 5 perfect red heifers from Texas to Israel on September 15, 2022, represents a milestone for many who follow these traditions. Rabbi Mahan, highlighting the importance of the 10th red heifer, reflects an expectation that this event is directly linked to the coming of the Messiah. In Jewish tradition, the 10th red heifer is associated with the Messianic era. Strict rules. The rules for selecting a red heifer are extremely strict. According to Mosaic law, the animal must be completely red without any defect or blemish. Moreover, it must never have been subjected to work, symbolized by the prohibition of having worn a yoke. So, what do you think of these warnings from Israel? Comment below and subscribe for more content. Symbolism and expectation. For many Jews, the presence and potential sacrifice of the 10th red heifer carry deep symbolism. It is linked to purification and preparation for an era of renewal and holiness, possibly heralding the coming of the Messiah and the construction of the Third Temple. Connection with the Third Temple. The belief is that the sacrifice of the 10th red heifer would be an essential step in the construction of the Third Temple in Jerusalem, a prophesied and anticipated event by many within the Jewish tradition. This temple would symbolize not just a religious milestone, but also a historical and spiritual turning point. Community and global response. The arrival of these heifers in Israel has generated not just religious interest, but also global discussions about the implications of these beliefs and practices. For some, it represents a literal fulfillment of prophecies. For others, it is a significant cultural and historical event. Until they are 3 years old, these red heifers can be sacrificed and their ashes used in accordance with Jewish law. A group called Bona Israel, consisting of Jews and Christians, played a crucial role in bringing heifers to Israel. Byron Stinson, a rancher from Texas and an advisor to the organization, raised this special cattle. When they arrived at Boren Airport, a welcome ceremony was held, attended by important figures from the Temple Institute. The red heifers are extremely important in the Bible. The Book of Numbers 19 discusses the use of their ashes to purify the Israelites from impurities. These ashes were essential for special rituals in the temple. So the presence of red heifers today is seen by many as a sign that the Third Temple will be built, connecting to the return of Christ. According to tradition, 9 red heifers have been sacrificed since the time of Moses, but none since the destruction of the Second Temple. Rabbi Mahan said that the Messiah himself would sacrifice the 10th red heifer. Thus, when these 5 perfect red heifers from Texas arrived in Israel on September 15, 2022, many people saw it as a prophecy coming true and a major step towards the construction of a new temple. The rules for a red heifer are strict under Mosaic law. It must be without defect or blemish and must never have worn a yoke. The process of sacrificing a red heifer involved special rituals, such as using a female animal, sacrificing away from the entrance, and the specific color of the animal. All these rules and rituals about the red heifer in the Bible are like a preview of the sacrifice of Christ. Jesus was like the red heifer without blemish. Just as the red heifer was sacrificed outside the camp, Jesus was crucified outside Jerusalem. And just as the red heifer's ashes purified people from the contamination of death, Jesus' sacrifice cleanses us from the punishment and corruption of sin and death. Furthermore, there was the rediscovery of the ancient pool of Siloam. This pool, 53 feet long, 18 feet wide, and 19 feet deep, was skillfully crafted using natural rocks. But sadly, it was destroyed when Babylon attacked Jerusalem during the Second Temple period. The good news is that it was rebuilt in Nehemiah's time and became even larger during the reign of Herod the Great. This pool was a special place where the poor and sick came for healing, being super important during the Feast of Tabernacles, which celebrates the liberation of the Israelites from Egypt. The Festival of Booths, or Sukkot, is a significant celebration in Judaism. It remembers the time when the Israelites were freed from Egypt and survived in the desert. People build temporary booths like their ancestors' shelters in the wilderness. Sukkot is a way of giving thanks to God and asking for rain. During Sukkot, a priest used to fetch water from the pool of Siloam in a golden pitcher, singing psalms and rejoicing. He poured the water on the west side of the altar, symbolizing something special from Isaiah 12. 3. With joy you will draw water from the wells of salvation. Pouring the water during Sukkot was like saying they were joyful and drawing water from the wells of salvation. Even after the original pool was destroyed, it was rebuilt, and people continued to celebrate and find joy in their traditions. After the reconstruction of the Pool of Siloam, a special water libation ceremony took place on October 12. Many people gathered for this special ceremony, akin to what they used to do in the Old Temple. The ceremony was led by special priests, the Kohanim, who wore special clothes, and Levites, who played musical instruments. They started in the old city of Jerusalem at Shahar Haspad and went to Siloam, also known as Gihon Springs, following the same paths as they did in the time of the Old Temple. During the parade, at each stop, people sang, danced, and played silver trumpets. Important rabbis supervised the event, and the group carried a golden jug filled with water from the pool. They returned to the mountain summit, where they set up a model altar and tools. Just like in the Old Temple, the altar was decorated with big leafy branches, continuing the ancient temple tradition. The ceremony ended with the priestly blessing and the hakel ceremony, which only happens once every 7 years. Although the Torah doesn't specifically mention the water ceremony, people see it as part of what Moses taught orally. It's like a happy holiday. This ceremony used to go on in the Old Temple for 15 hours, and the celebrations would continue all night until the next morning when the temple service began again. People from all over the world came to take part in the Sukkot celebration, making it a day of worship for everyone. In the last 6 days of Sukkot, they performed a water ceremony and poured wine during the morning service. The priests filled a flask with spring water and went from the temple to the spring at the base of Mount Moriah. 2 priests climbed the stone altar in the temple's courtyard and poured wine and water into special holes made for the ceremony. The Shiloh pool, also known as Shalom in English and Silwan in Arabic, is important in the Bible. They believe it will come back to life after they finish building the third temple. Pilgrims used to start their journey to Jerusalem at this pool for the biblical feasts. After cleansing themselves in the pool, they would go to the inner court of the Temple Mount to offer their sacrifices. The pool was discovered in 2004 and is still being dug up and explored. According to the Babylonian Talmud, the year after the Shemitah, a special year, is thought to be auspicious for the Messiah to come. A prophecy in the book of Amos says the tribe of Israel will be brought back from other nations. The Talmud also talks about the hard times that will happen before the Messiah comes. It's not clear if the Jews will build another real temple before Christ comes again, because a spiritual temple is already being built. The most important thing is to be part of God's spiritual temple by living a life devoted to God and being ready for whatever challenges might come in the end times. After the ceremony, a marriage also recently took place on the Temple Mount in Jeremiah 33. 1. There's a prophecy that talks about a happy time with a voice of joy and the voice of gladness, showing the joy connected to the arrival of a future Messiah and the third temple. This prophecy has started a trend in Israel where Jewish people visit the revered Temple Mount, seeing it as a sign of the Messiah's coming. A couple from Rehovot and Telm Aton Cranton and Coral Daisy Dean, recently got engaged on the Temple Mount, and this practice is becoming popular among Jewish couples. They combine the two parts of a traditional Jewish marriage, betrothal, kedushin, and the wedding ceremony, nishuin, under the chuppah. This emphasizes the belief in humanity's creation in God's image and the formation of an everlasting union. This special moment on the Temple Mount connects to a verse from Jeremiah that is often recited at weddings, predicting a time of joy and thanksgiving in the land. The Temple Mount even has historical gates for bridegrooms and mourners, known as the Gate of Mercy. As more Jewish couples choose the Temple Mount for their engagements, they see it as the fulfillment of ancient prophecies, like Zechariah 8:20-22, which talks about people from different cities coming to Jerusalem to pray to the Lord. These events are seen as awe, inspiring, and in line with biblical prophecies.